Ever since I've started animatronics, there's always been the question of how do you control it? So without creating a full animation, I just want to be able to sit down and play with some joysticks and see it move around. So to do this in the past, I've been using this Xbox controller. So it's okay, you get these 6 degrees of freedom, 2 from each joystick and 1 from each of these triggers back here. So 6 degrees of analog freedom. But the problem with that is, it's really hard to hold these really steady or put them in a precise position, and then hold those steady while trying to use the triggers too. It's just not a precise and smooth movement. So then, one day, I was up in the guest room, and I found this bad boy. This is a flight stick from a very long time ago. I know it's very old, because it has a game port on it. Now, I'm personally too young to have ever experienced a computer with a game port on it, so we know this is old, which is probably why my grandpa gave it to me a couple years ago. So if we take a closer look at it, it has 2 degrees of freedom here, and then 2 buttons on the controller itself. Then it also has these 3 trim pots on the sides of the stick and the front. Now these could be used for controlling things that don't always need to move around on the animatronic, and this can be used for precise movement. But that's not quite enough, so I figured as long as we're going to mod an Arduino into this to control it, I might as well add a thumbstick right around here too. So this thumbstick I'll be able to control with my thumb and maybe one of these trim pots with another finger. Then with my other hand, move this joystick around and press the 2 buttons. So, of course it's an Arduino Nano, so it won't just be plug and play and act like a universal USB joystick. We'll have to write some custom code to make it work with my animation program, which I will have to also show off in the future. But I think to start off, we just need to get inside. Alright, screws are out. Let's see how well this... Oh, it just comes right off. Huh. Alright, so if we take a closer look inside, these 3 ginormous pots here work for the trims on the side. I feel like it's not supposed to be rotating in there. Oh, that's weird. So it appears that this trim pot here is also tied to the axis of movement. So this looks like this is actually connected to the joystick as a dead spot or center position adjuster. So what happens is when you rotate this, the center of the potentiometer moves to somewhere else on the... Okay. So when you rotate this, which would have been the front trim on the controller, it rotates the potentiometer, which changes the center of one of the axes of the joystick. Okay, so this one is actually attached to the potentiometer all on its own. So that's good. That means we get 1 degree of freedom from it. So it looks like they got away without soldering anything but these buttons right here. Which is rather impressive if you think about it. Because everything else is just snap fits like this. Okay, so it's apart. Game cord disconnected, which means I think it's time for us to reassemble and solder everything together. So that axis back in. Let's get this axis back in. So we've got the two axes here we built. It turns out these pots are, if I can get to stay in. These pots are center adjustments. So if this gets out of center, you just move these pots. And then this one is its own axis, which means this one here, you move around and it's connected to its own separate pot. And it just fell apart. Biggest bit I could find was a 3/4, which should just barely be big enough for this. I don't know, I might need to make it bigger somehow. So now we have the joystick mounted up, or the hole drilled for the joystick, the right spot. We want to put it here, so I'm going to 3D print a mount for it. Okay, so I got the 3D printed mount. The joystick connects just like that with some M3 screws, and then from here, this gets hot glued in just about here. And then on this side we get a nice joystick. I've got the joystick mount glued on, you can see it right there, and it's screwed together. And if I just put the base on, it actually feels really good just sitting right there, because you could easily hit that trim then with the other hand on the handle. Yeah, I like it right there. And the button still works, it's not too flexible there. So I've reassembled most of it for reference, and this does feel really good. It's basically what I expected with the thumb joystick here and this, and then you can move this all around. So that's really cool. And then let's talk about the layout of the electronics. So first, originally I wanted to use one of these dew point connectors to connect to the joystick here, because it would just be nicer. But it doesn't look like it quite fits there because of this trim pot. So instead of that, I'm just going to solder directly to that. But to connect my Arduino in here, I'm going to put a piece of strip board right here and glue it to these two supports. And this way, the Arduino can go here. And then I can get some pin headers. And I can use the pin headers to make a place for, oh gosh, this dew point connector, so that when all the potentiometers and buttons in here can be connected to this dew point connector, and then I can solder the strip board outside, then put it in, glue it in here, and then just snap that in. Got all the power wiring, everything but the Arduino's in basically. So these are all lines that run to the basically data lines from this trim, and then the button and the potentiometers on the joystick here. Then these two here are the data lines from these two potentiometers, so the joystick. And this is the two data lines from the buttons. So I have the Arduino soldered to the board, and then wires running from the correct Arduino ports to the pin headers. So then this dew point connector, once I connected those wires, slips right on there. And then this whole board goes into the joystick right here. That'll probably just be hot glue because there won't be any strain on it or anything, so. So I've got it all soldered together now. It's all screwed back together. And it feels exactly like I want it to. So this joystick feels really nice. The way the springs work, it kind of catches right there, right in the middle. I think we can work around that, or work with it. This trim pot feels really good. The two buttons feel good. And this thumb axis, which I added, feels perfect right there. I think the ideal position to grab it is going to be right hand on the joystick with these two buttons, then left hand thumb on the thumbstick, and finger on the trim pot, because remember, these two don't do anything but move the center of this joystick around. Yeah. So next up, let's look at the programming, or how it's gonna be controlled. Hey, it's me from the future. It's me from the future. I've come back. Third tries the charm. I've come back to the past to tell you guys in the future that I'm going to split this video up into 2 parts. It's just getting really long. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so when I upload the next part, you'll see it then.